We start around the 3rd century BC. In China, Cuju is played, one of the oldest known ball games. Two teams compete around a ball filled with feathers that must be sent into a net without using the hands. In ancient Greece, Episkairos, another ball sport, is played between two teams of 12 to 14 players. The goal of this game is to send the ball over the opponent's line using hands and feet. The Romans based their game harpastium on this sport. In harpastium, two teams each try to keep the ball in their own camp as long as possible, again using hands and feet. Elsewhere in the world, many ball games are played with local rules. Around the 12th century, in northwestern France and the British Isles, a ball game is played that is called soul in French and mob football in English. The rules vary slightly from one region to another. Globally, a match pits two villages, two parishes, or simply two teams against each others, which can be composed of several tens of players. The goal is to drop the ball into the camp of the opposing team. This can be in front of the local church door, in front of a wall, or even sometimes in a pond. The ball can be played with both the feet and hands. Most often, it ends in violent free-for-alls. In 1579 in Chesterton, a match between Cambridge University students and villagers got out of hand. As a result, Cambridge students thereafter only played on their own university field. At the beginning of the 19th century in British colleges and universities, team sports are seen as a good way to train young people in discipline, team spirit, and leadership. At the same time, the Industrial Revolution and the advent of the railroad facilitate exchanges. The idea of organizing inter-university matches appears, but each team plays with its own rules, and the first meetings are confused, especially between teams that mainly favor dribbling, i.e., playing with the feet, and those that mainly favor handling, playing with the hands. For a successful match, it therefore becomes necessary to either negotiate the rules beforehand, or to divide the match into two halftimes and to play with the rules of each team for one half. In Cambridge, students from different universities meet regularly to try to establish common rules. In 1857, the Sheffield Football Club is founded as the first independent club in history, i.e., not linked to a university or institution. The club plays under its own rules, which are similar to modern football. In 1863, new and more detailed Cambridge rules are published. But just a few days later, the newly formed Football Association, which represents 11 London clubs and is the first federation in history, publishes its own rules inspired by the Cambridge rules. The clubs that favor handling, seeing the rules evolve towards dribbling, come together in 1871 to found the Rugby Football Union. This marks the break between rugby football and the Football Association, which is today more commonly known as simply football or soccer. The same year, the Football Association organizes the first FA Cup. The matches last 90 minutes and feature two teams of 11 players, including, for the first time, a goalkeeper. In 1872, the first international match between England and Scotland takes place and ends in a draw, 0-0. In 1872, the first international match between England and Scotland takes place and ends in a draw, 0-0. At that time, the United Kingdom is the leading economic and colonial power in the world. British nationals are sent all around the world to serve the empire. Railway workers in Latin America, students in Switzerland, or simply British communities found clubs around the world to play Football Association, rugby football, or sometimes a combination of both. In 1881, the first international women's game takes place between England and Scotland. But the fact that women are playing football is frowned upon, and during the return match, a crowd attacks the players, forcing them to flee in their omnibus. Around the world, the sport becomes increasingly popular, and many new clubs and federations are created. In 1902, The first international matches outside the United Kingdom are held. Argentina beats Uruguay 6-0 in one match, and in the other, the Austrian team wins 5-0 against the Hungarian team. In 1904, the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, or FIFA, is founded in Paris. At first, it brings together 7 countries, with its role being to organize international matches. More nations quickly join FIFA. However, France is opposed to England's application because it wants each country to be represented by a single federation. The United Kingdom has the 4 oldest federations in history, and they don't want to merge. Finally, after a vote, England is admitted separately. In 1908 at the London Olympic Games, football is officially admitted for the first time. Professionalism being then forbidden at the Olympic Games, it is the England national amateur football team which represents the country, and which wins the gold medal. In 1910, FIFA exceptionally accepts the applications of Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. The 4 British federations could therefore play international matches, but at the Olympic Games, only the England amateur team could represent the country. In 1912 at the Olympic Games in Stockholm, it wins again. In 1916, during World War I, Argentina celebrates its 100 years of independence by organizing a football tournament with Brazil, Chile, and Uruguay. On this occasion, CONMEBOL, the first continental confederation, is founded. In 1920, during the Antwerp Olympic Games, in which Egypt is the first non-European country to participate, Belgium wins, and in 1924 in Paris, Uruguay wins the gold medal in its first participation. Football becomes so popular that many leagues become professional and, as a result, more and more players could no longer represent their country at the Olympic Games, which remains reserved for amateurs. FIFA then thinks of creating its own international competition, which would consist of professional teams. In 1928, during the Olympic Games in Amsterdam, FIFA announces its project to create its own World Cup. Uruguay, after its new victory at the Olympic Games, is chosen to host the first World Cup, which would take place in 1930, on the occasion of the centenary of the country's independence. Uruguay undertakes to build a new stadium for the occasion. But in Europe, the players and federations have little interest in this event, especially since it takes about 2 weeks by ship to reach Uruguay, and therefore the entire trip will take 2 months. After many negotiations, only 4 European countries agree to participate. The World Cup final is played between Uruguay and Argentina, whose rivalry is so strong that a referee can be found only a few hours before the match, and who agrees to adjudicate the match only if he is protected. Both teams come with their own ball. One half is played with the Argentine ball, the other with the Uruguayan. Uruguay wins 4-2. 4 years later, it is the turn of Mussolini's fascist Italy to host the World Cup, which is the first to be broadcast live on the radio. Uruguay chooses not to participate in response to the lack of interest shown by European countries for its cup. In the final, Italy wins against Czechoslovakia 2-1. In 1936, FIFA chooses to play the next World Cup in France, which provokes the anger of Latin American countries who want the cup to be played alternately between the 2 continents. Uruguay and Argentina decide then not to participate. Spain, which is in the middle of a civil war, does not participate either, and a few months before the cup, Austria, which had qualified, is annexed by Nazi Germany. In the final, Italy retains its title by beating Hungary 4-2. World War II then brings the competition to a halt for the next 12 years. The World Cup resumes in 1950 in Brazil. Germany and Japan, which are occupied, are not allowed to participate. In addition, at the beginning of the Cold War, the countries of the Eastern Bloc do not participate either. Only 13 countries play in the finals, including England, which was previously in conflict with FIFA, and participates for the first time. But to everyone's surprise, England is eliminated in the group stage after losing to the United States and Spain. This is the only World Cup that does not end with a final, but with a finalist group. By chance, the two favorites, Uruguay and Brazil, face each other in the last match, which is played in the brand new Maracanã Stadium, with a record capacity of 200,000 spectators. A draw would be enough for Brazil to be champion. However, Uruguay wins 2-1 in front of a stunned Brazilian audience. A draw would be enough for Brazil to be champion. However, Uruguay wins 2-1 in front of a stunned Brazilian audience. 4 years later, Switzerland hosts the competition, which is the first to be broadcast on television. Hungary, which is undefeated for 31 games, is the favorite. Hungary, which is undefeated for 31 games, is the favorite. However, to everyone's surprise, West Germany narrowly wins the final, thanks to a goal scored in the final minutes of the game. In 1954, the Asian Football Confederation, and the Union of European Football Associations, or UEFA, are founded. Well, come along with me to the next journey. Part 2 will be uploaded soon. Stay tuned. Please subscribe to the Learning Tribe and click the bell icon to get notified about our upcoming videos.